I was going to ask you about the director's cut as well, because as a filmmaker, I think like you've made that such a thing. What is it that you think is so worthwhile about kind of presenting two versions of a film?
Well, I think in this case, the real sort of why of the director's cut is that in a genre like this, making a giant space movie is, the economics say you can't really have an R-rated version because, we need the biggest audience to see the movie. And this allows me to sit down and write a crazy movie that has no business existing. And Netflix, in their wisdom, was like, well, I have a way to make that movie exist, the crazy version. And the way you do that is you give me something I can sell that is consistent with your vision.
Good day, legends. Strap yourself in, because today's story hits harder than a surprise swooping magpie in springtime. But before we dive into the cinematic showdown between Zack Snyder and James Gunn, make sure you subscribe to Stats In and click that notifications bell so you never miss the drama, the twists, the industry gossip, and all the juicy Hollywood power plays we break down every week. You will absolutely want to stay tuned for this one. Now, let us get straight into it, because Zack Snyder has just pulled off a win so sneaky, so unexpected, and so brilliantly timed that Hollywood is pretending not to stare, while absolutely staring. And the best part? He did not even need to release a movie. He did not need a trailer. He did not even need a full sentence. All it took was one fan poll exploding across the internet like a bushfire in dry season. This poll, run by a massive pop culture commentator with a huge following, asked a very simple question. Whose Superman era reigns supreme? James Gunn's brand new Superman, 2025, or Zack Snyder's Man of Steel? And mate, the results were not even close. Snyder dominated the poll like a champion athlete racing toddlers. It was not a gentle win, it was an uppercut. And this right here is where the story turns from interesting to downright explosive. Fans immediately began celebrating as if they had just discovered treasure buried under their backyard gum tree. The enthusiasm was volcanic. The Snyderverse faithful flooded timelines, comment sections, and even unrelated posts to declare that the people had spoken. Meanwhile, James Gunn supporters were scrambling to understand how a film from over a decade ago could still steamroll a brand new reboot with all the marketing hype in the world. If it were any other director, this would have been a fun trivia moment. But with Snyder, this was a statement. The poll became a billboard reminding Hollywood executives, directors, and anyone remotely involved in DC films that his influence and fan loyalty did not fade, they intensified. Now, here is the part that makes this whole situation even more compelling. The timing of the poll lines up suspiciously well with Snyder's recent run of cryptic posts. Dark aesthetic teasers, atmospheric images, the vibe of a director who knows something the rest of the industry has not fully figured out yet. Fans were already buzzing. Then this poll drops. It is like someone lit a match near a petrol tank. Suddenly, every corner of the fandom is erupting with speculation. Was Snyder sending a message? Was the universe aligning in his favor? Or is destiny simply having a bit of fun? Hollywood thrives on momentum, and Snyder is gathering it like he has been training for this moment. Imagine this whole situation like two giant kangaroos standing chest to chest, each staring the other down. On one side, you have James Gunn, the new captain of the DC ship, pushing for a bright, comedic, hopeful universe. On the other side, you have Zack Snyder, the man behind one of the most visually bold and emotionally heavy superhero eras in recent history, quietly casting a shadow so large you could set up camp underneath it. The poll did not just favor Snyder, it placed him back in the global conversation in a way Hollywood cannot ignore. Executives see numbers. Marketing teams see opportunities. Streaming services see potential gold. When tens of thousands of fans rush to vote for something from 2013 over something from 2025, that says more than any press release ever could. And here is where things get even cheekier. With the results circulating everywhere, Snyder decides to engage online. Not with a rant. Not with a victory lap. Just a subtle interaction. A small gesture. And it was all it took for the internet to scream louder than a kookaburra at sunrise. That tiny engagement amplified the situation like a megaphone. Fans interpreted it as confirmation that Snyder saw the poll. That he appreciated the support. that he was aware of how the tide was shifting. And some swore it was a sly wink to James Gunn himself, though that is pure fan imagination. Still, the energy is electric. And now the theories are breeding faster than cane toads. Some fans believe Snyder is being courted by streaming giants. Others think the studio is reconsidering abandoned storylines. Others even believe the Snyderverse might return as parallel content alongside Gunn's cinematic reboot. Hollywood loves multiverses, after all. But here is the punchline. Snyder did not plan the poll. He did not engineer it. He did not push it. Fans created the momentum on their own. His secret win comes from sheer loyalty, nostalgia, passion, and the undeniably strong energy his older films still have. That is the mark of a director whose work lives rent-free in the cultural landscape. This moment exposes something deeper, something executives hate admitting but absolutely know. You cannot manufacture fan loyalty. You cannot. Good day, legends. Picture this. A film that was once dismissed, overlooked, and sometimes even ridiculed suddenly rockets back into popularity, and everyone is asking, how did this happen? That, mates, is the story of Zack Snyder's Sucker Punch right now. But before we unpack this cinematic comeback, do yourselves a favor. Subscribe to Stats In and hit that notifications bell so you never miss the insider Hollywood scoops, shocking industry moves, and film mysteries we break down every week. You will absolutely want to be here for this one. Now, let us dive in. Sucker Punch, Snyder's bold, stylistically audacious film from 2011, has unexpectedly surged in streaming popularity. A movie once considered polarizing, visually overwhelming, and narratively complex is now commanding attention like it has been waiting all this time for its moment. And honestly, watching it gain traction now feels like seeing a rare animal reappear after decades in hiding. Fascinating, striking, and a little bit surreal. Why is it happening? There are multiple layers, and they are all delicious. First, Snyder's unique visual language is timeless. The film's hyper-stylized action sequences, dreamlike transitions, and larger-than-life set pieces were ahead of their time in 2011. Audiences now, saturated with cinematic universes and streaming content, are finally able to appreciate the artistry and ambition without the distraction of comparing it to mainstream blockbusters. It is like discovering a vintage wine that is finally ready to be savored. Then comes the factor of streaming itself. Platforms today are designed to resurrect hidden gems. Algorithms notice renewed interest, promote it, and suddenly, a film that went unnoticed in theaters becomes a trending sensation overnight. In other words, streaming has become the perfect ecosystem for Snyder's work to thrive. Fans stumble upon it, discuss it, recommend it, and the momentum compounds, a perfect storm that is hard to resist. But let us not forget the fan factor. Snyder has one of the most loyal, passionate, and deeply engaged fan bases in modern cinema. They live and breathe every frame, dissect every image, and defend every creative decision. When they began rediscovering Sucker Punch, they didn't just watch it, they shared it, analyzed it, created discussions, and made it feel culturally relevant again. That grassroots momentum often matters more than box office numbers or critical reviews. And in this case, it worked in Snyder's favor beautifully. Now, here is another interesting angle. Timing. Contemporary audiences are drawn to films with complex female leads and visually ambitious narratives. Sucker Punch features a strong, action-driven ensemble navigating an intricate narrative, which resonates more today than it might have a decade ago. Social and cultural shifts have made the film more relevant, and streaming provides the ideal environment for this resurgence. It is like the universe has finally caught up with Snyder's vision. And of course,